Hi, my name's Owen and I'm from Native Instruments and I'm here today at the Gear for Music studio. Today we're going to be looking at the all-new Kontrol D2, which is a stems-ready third generation deck to control Traktor Pro. The D2 has high-resolution screens, touch-sensitive knobs and has full integration and control over the 4 decks within Traktor. If we come to the back side of it, we can see that we have 2 USB ports, which means you can plug an external hard drive into it. And you are able to navigate to that hard drive and load tracks into Traktor whilst playing. It also means that I can daisy chain another D2 or another controller to this as well. What's very useful too is that the D2 comes pre-boxed with a PSU splitter cable. This means that if you have a second D2, you can power both of them off of one power supply. This is really useful for the travelling DJ, but also if you're just short on power supplies as well. I can also control all of the decks from this one D2 unit, and it's a simple case of pushing the deck button and then choosing either deck A, deck B, deck C or deck D. Once I've chosen a deck, the D2 is then in focus on that deck and I have full control over it. If we start on the top of the unit though, you can see I have an effects unit across here. You can see that these faders are capacitive. What capacitive means is that I don't actually have to push down on the fader, I just have to make contact with the fader and a little drop down menu appears which tells me what effects I have loaded in and if the effects are switched on or switched off. This is really useful because it means this high resolution colour display doesn't become cluttered with unnecessary information. You only see it when you need to see it. I can control all of the effects unit from the D2. If I push the effects select button, I can change the behaviour of the effects unit, choosing whether group, which will give me 3 effects, or single, which would just give me 1 effect. But I have more control over that effect. I can also choose between insert, post and send. Snapshots will store a value for an effect, and it means the next time you load it in, that effect will load directly back to that value, and it's a really useful feature within Traktor. Simply come out of effects select again, I just push the button. If we look at the high-res colour display, you can see that I have a stripe view at the bottom and I have the main view here. The main view is showing me what is contained within the little red box. I can zoom in and I can zoom out of the waveform also. Or if I hold shift, I can actually needle drop through the track in real time. This is exactly the same as picking a needle up and dropping it onto a record. Or if the track isn't playing, I can physically scratch with it, or if I press play on the track, I can then use that as a tempo bend also. To browse my Traktor collection, it's just a simple case of touching and holding the browse button. Again, this is capacitive, although this feature can be switched off in preferences. Simply by pushing the back button, this will take me up to my track collection. I could even at this point go on and actually navigate my computer's hard drive or an external hard drive from this point. If I go back up to playlists, I can simply click down on the encoder, choose a playlist that I'm interested in. Once I'm in the playlist, I'm able to sort by different criteria. This is very useful because it means you can sort through your Traktor collection in lightning quick time. It's also possible for me to load a track into the preview player and listen to it before I load it into a deck. This is incredibly useful if you've already got 4 tracks loaded into Traktor, because it now means that you can still preview a 5th track before you choose to swap one of the existing tracks. You'll see now that I've removed my finger from browse, we're back to the high-res screen. If we look further down onto the unit, we can have a look at the performance buttons. I have 8 of these. These are multifunctional depending on whether or not I've pushed hot cue, loop or freeze. The freeze function is a really good performance feature. If I go back to hot cue and I set myself a 1-bar loop, what has happened now is has sliced that loop up into different pieces for me. I can then play those 8 individual pieces back in whatever order I want, and I could also as well jump back to hot cue and choose another loop and go back into freeze again if I want to. If I push the loop button down here, it changes the function of these performance pads. What I now have is 4 different loop sizes that are stored to those 4 green pads and 4 different beat jump sizes that are stored to the orange pads down here. I can change the loop range and the beat jump size in the preferences from the software. If I go back to hot cue, I can go back and select another loop. The Traktor Kontrol D2 hardware is purpose built for mixing with stems. Stems is a new, open, multi-channel format with 4 different musical elements that are available to us. For example, these might be drums, bass, vocals and melody. However, using the D2, these 4 parts are available to us independently. If we have a look at the hardware, we can see that I've loaded up a stem file. The reason I know this is a stem file is because although currently it looks like a track file, the D2 is already showing me something that's different. And along the bottom of the screen, I have drums, bass, instruments and vox. If I push Shift and the lower button here, this expands it into the stems view. Now you can clearly see that I have 4 stems available to me, and they're conveniently color coded along the sides as well. So we have the red, the purple, the green and the orange. So if I press play, we can now see that this track is just playing back as per usual. However, each of those 4 elements is now mapped across to the 4 faders. So if I want to drop out instruments and vox, I can just push them down. Now you can hear that we're only listening to the drums and bass. Equally, I could just drop out the drums and then bring them back in again. Already you can see the creative freedom and possibilities that this gives to a DJ, a producer, but also a band, because Stems is going to be a non-proprietary open format where anyone can download the Stems Creator tool from summer 2015 for free and make their own Stems file. Once they've put that into a piece of hardware or software that is Stems compatible, they will have access to those 4 files. Equally, because they're 4 separate files, this means that I can treat them independently from one another. So for example, if I bring the instruments and the vocals back up, I can use these arrows to scroll through an effects send and a filter page. So for example, it might be that I want to apply a high pass filter to the vocals, but maybe a low pass filter to the drums, and then bring them back in again like that. If I move the right hand or the left hand arrow, I get onto an effects send page. What this is now telling me is that I'm able to send those elements to an effects unit. Simply, if I want to apply some effects to, let's just say, the drums, I choose the effect that I want to apply. So I'm going to choose a delay, dial in the value that I want. Now it's simply just a case of turning the amount of the effect that I want to send and simply pushing the on button. And you'll hear there, as I was reducing the volume on that, I was also applying delay to it as well. We could then say, okay, let's apply something more. Let's apply something to the vocal, for example. So I choose the effect that I want to apply, turn up the vocal, push on, and now just switch the effect on as and when I want it to come on. So you can see already the amount of creative possibilities that this offers a DJ is unparalleled. To be able to play with stems in that way, not only is it great fun, it also means that you can perform mixes in ways that haven't been possible before. Imagine if I load up another stem file onto another deck, then I can start to mix and match different parts from different tracks. I could also then start to incorporate one of Traktor's remix decks and actually bring additional elements in over that track as well. So as you can see, that's been a really brief overview of the Kontrol D2 and the integration of the new stems file format, which should be ready in summer 2015. I'm Owain from Native Instruments, and I've been here today at the Gear for Music studios. Thanks very much.